The twin suns of planet Vera hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the towering walls of the alien city. The towers of stone and metal glowed with strange blue lights, and at their center stood the High Council Hall. Inside, the alien rulers sat in curved seats of crystal. Their scaled faces were cold, and their eyes gleamed with pride. They looked down on a single human standing in the middle of the chamber. His name was Rion. He was tall, with dark hair that fell to his shoulders and strong arms marked with scars from hard labor. For years he had lived as a worker in the alien mines, digging metals for the council. He was not rich, and he was not powerful, yet he carried himself with quiet strength. Today, that strength was being tested in a way no human had faced before. One of the council members, a tall alien with silver scales named Vorak, raised his hand for silence. His voice was deep, echoing through the hall. This human claims that his kind are not weak. He speaks of courage and will, yet words are air. We will see if they hold truth. The other council members hissed in agreement. Some humans and aliens stood in the crowd, watching with curiosity. They knew what was coming, and whispers spread like fire. He is being sent into the caverns. No one returns from there. The beast waits inside. This will be his end. Rion heard their whispers, but did not let fear show on his face. He knew the stories of the caverns. They stretched far under the surface of Vera, a maze of stone and darkness. The legends said a creature lived there, larger than any machine, older than the council itself. They called it the Beast. No one had ever seen it and lived to tell the tale. Vorak's voice thundered again. Human Rion, you are given a choice. Enter the caverns and prove the worth of your kind. If you return, you will have earned respect. If you fall, your death will show the truth of human weakness. Rion lifted his head and spoke with a calm tone. I will go, not for you, but for my people. The council laughed, their sharp teeth flashing. They thought his courage was foolish, but they allowed it. Guards in black armor led Rion out of the hall, down the winding paths of the city, until they reached the mouth of the caverns. The entrance was wide, a jagged crack in the side of a mountain. Cold air poured from it, carrying the smell of stone and something wild. The guards gave him only a simple spear and a torch. One of them smirked. This is all you will need for your short journey. Rion did not answer. He tied the torch to his belt and held the spear firmly. The crowd that had followed from the city stood behind him, waiting to see the human's first step. Some expected him to turn back in fear. Instead, he took a steady breath and walked forward into the dark. The air grew colder as he moved deeper. His torch lit only a small circle around him, the walls dripping with water. The sound of his footsteps echoed, and now and then he heard faint whispers of wind through narrow cracks. It was not silence. The caverns seemed alive. Rion remembered the words of his mother when he was young. She had told him that fear was natural, but giving in to it was a choice. He held on to that thought. Hours passed as he walked. His torch began to burn low, but he saved it by moving slowly and resting when he could. He marked the walls with scratches from his spear to keep from losing his path. Soon the ground shook faintly. At first he thought it was his imagination, but then it grew stronger. A sound followed, deep and heavy, like thunder rolling through the stone. Rion froze, holding his torch high. From the shadows at the edge of his light, two glowing eyes appeared. They were bright yellow, unblinking, fixed on him. The torchlight revealed the edge of a massive shape, scales black as the cavern walls. The beast had found him. It stepped closer, each movement shaking the ground. Its body filled the tunnel, its head larger than Rion's entire frame. Its teeth were long and sharp, and a low growl rumbled in its chest. Rion gripped his spear. His heart pounded, yet he did not run. Running would mean death. He stood his ground, meeting the gaze of the beast. The creature stopped only a few steps away. Its breath was hot and smelled of earth and old blood. The torchlight flickered across its face, showing scars that marked its jaw and horns. Rion realized then that this was no mindless monster. Its eyes held thought, as if it were deciding what to do with him. The council had sent him to be eaten, But in this moment, Rian felt something different. This was not just a battle of strength. It was a test of spirit. Slowly, Rian lowered his spear. He kept his movements calm, showing that he was not a threat. He reached into his pack and pulled out dried food he had saved from the journey. With steady hands, he placed it on the ground and stepped back. The beast tilted its head, the growl fading. It sniffed the food, then with one swift movement, swallowed it. For a moment there was silence again. Then the beast looked back at him, its glowing eyes softer than before. Rian knew this was only the beginning. The true trial had not ended. But in that first meeting, he had seen more than a monster. He had seen a creature that understood choice just as he did. And so, deep within the caverns of fear, man and beast stood facing one another. The council above expected death, yet something else had begun to take root. A bond, fragile but real, sparked in the darkness. The cavern swallowed Rian whole as he moved further from the entrance. Behind him, the last light of the twin suns had vanished, leaving only the trembling glow of his torch. Shadows stretched long against the stone walls, dancing with every step he took. The ground was uneven, wet with dripping water from cracks above. It was as if the mountain itself breathed around him. The beast still followed. It did not charge at him as the council had promised. Instead, it walked slowly in the darkness, its giant body brushing against the sides of the cavern. Each step sent tremors through the floor. Its glowing eyes never left him. It was watching, waiting, studying him like no prey it had ever seen before. Rian's grip on the spear was tight. His heart beat hard in his chest, yet he forced himself to remain calm. He had learned in life that animals could sense fear. If he ran, if he trembled, it might end his journey in one swift bite. But if he stood firm, maybe it would hold back its rage. The silence between man and beast was broken only by the crackle of the torch. Hours passed as Rian walked deeper into the cavern. At times the path narrowed, and the beast had to crawl low, its scales scraping the stone. Other times the cavern opened into wide halls filled with sharp rocks and pools of black water. Strange creatures lived there too, smaller beasts with pale skin and many legs. Scattering into holes when the larger beast approached, Rian began to understand that this was not simply the lair of a monster. This was an entire world hidden beneath the mountain. When he grew tired, he sat against the wall to rest. The beast would not come closer, but it did not leave. It circled in the shadows, keeping its eyes on him. When he lit another torch, it flinched at the fire, but remained near. Rian remembered the first moment when he had offered it food. That single act had changed something. It no longer saw him as only prey. But what was he now? The answer was still unknown. One night, or what he thought was night in the endless dark, Rian awoke to the sound of rushing water. A sudden flood swept through the lower path. The torchlight caught the sight of waves rolling in, carrying rocks and debris. Rian leaped to higher ground, but the flood rose quickly. His spear slipped from his hand, swept away in the current. For a moment he thought his journey had ended there. But then the beast appeared. With one massive claw, it blocked the path of the water, its body shielding Rian from the flood. The current slammed against its scales. But it stood strong until the water began to sink back into the cracks. Rian stared at it in silence. He realized then that the beast had saved him. When the danger passed, he bowed his head slightly toward it. "You chose not to let me die." The beast gave no words, but its glowing eyes softened, and it lowered its head as if to study his face more closely. From that moment on, Rian no longer felt only fear. He began to feel respect. The days turned into weeks. He marked time by the torches he burned and the paths he walked. The beast remained with him, not as a hunter, but as a companion in the dark. Rian learned to watch its movements and sounds. A low growl meant danger ahead. A flick of its tail warned of loose stone above. When it lifted its head and sniffed the air, he knew fresh water was near. It was not a bond of words, but of survival. Each day they relied on one another more. Once a swarm of smaller beasts attacked. They were sharp-clawed, fast, and hungry. Rian fought with a broken piece of stone, striking again and again. His arms burned with effort, and for every one he struck down, 2 more came. Just as he thought he would be overwhelmed, the great beast roared. The sound shook the cavern, sending the swarm fleeing into the shadows. The roar echoed for long moments. Rian covered his ears, yet in that sound he heard not just power, but warning. The beast had claimed him. It had told the lesser creatures that this human was not theirs to take. Later, when Rian rested, the beast brought something to him. From the darkness, it dragged the remains of an animal, placing it near his feet. Rian hesitated, then realized it was sharing food. He cooked part of it over his torch fire, and though the taste was rough, it kept him alive. He whispered, almost to himself, "We are no longer enemies, are we?" The beast only blinked slowly, the way some animals did when they felt calm. Above the caverns, the Council of Vera waited. They had already begun to speak of Rian as dead. In their minds, no human could last more than a day in the lair of the beast. Yet weeks had passed. The silence from below began to trouble them, though they hid it with proud words. They would not admit that a single human had defied their judgment. Back in the dark, Rian continued forward. He no longer searched for an exit alone. Now he searched for something greater: understanding. Why had the council feared this beast so much? Was it truly only a monster, or was it a guardian of secrets older than the council itself? One night he found a vast chamber deep within the mountain. In the center stood ruins, carved with symbols he could not read. The beast walked slowly around them, its head low, as if it remembered. Rian touched the stone walls and felt their age. Perhaps this was once a place of the beast's kind, long before the council ruled. For the first time he wondered if the council had lied. Maybe they had not sent him here only to die, but also to keep him from finding this truth. The thought gave him new strength. He turned to the beast and spoke softly. "If they fear you, perhaps it is because they cannot control you. And if they fear me, it is because I will not bow." The beast lifted its head and gave a deep sound, almost like agreement. Together they stood in that ancient chamber. Man and monster, not enemies, but companions. The trial that was meant to destroy him had forged something new. Rian no longer walked in the caverns as a prisoner of fate. He walked as one who carried both human spirit and the strength of the beast at his side. And though the council above still waited for his death, it would soon learn that he was not lost in the dark. He was preparing to return, not alone, but with a force that none of them could have imagined. The air inside the cavern grew warmer as Rian walked with the beast by his side. He no longer thought of it as a monster waiting to kill him. It had saved his life from flood and swarm, and it had shared food when he was near hunger. Now every step felt less like a lonely march to death and more like a journey shared by two who had chosen not to destroy each other. The torchlight flickered on the cavern walls, painting shadows that stretched and danced. Rian carried a broken stone blade he had shaped after losing his spear. He had tied it with strips of cloth to a wooden shaft he had carved from dry roots. It was not perfect, but it gave him a sense of safety. The beast did not need weapons. Its claws and teeth were sharper than any blade. For many days, Rian moved through the underground world. Sometimes he rested on flat stones while the beast coiled its great body in the dark. Its breathing was heavy, slow, like the sound of waves against rock. Other times it wandered ahead and then returned, as if making sure the path was safe. Once they came upon a great lake hidden under the mountain. The water glowed faintly with green light from strange plants that floated on its surface. Rian knelt to drink and washed the dirt from his face. The beast lowered its head too, lapping the water in deep gulps. For a moment they looked almost the same, two beings bound by thirst and survival. Rian smiled softly. "We are both trapped here, aren't we?" The beast's eyes glowed in answer. It gave a low sound that echoed in the wide chamber. It was in this lake chamber that danger struck again. From the far side of the water, shapes began to rise. They were long and thin, with fins like knives and jaws filled with rows of teeth. The creatures moved silently, their bodies gliding under the glowing surface. Rian stood quickly, gripping his stone spear. The first of the creatures leaped from the water, jaws open. Rian swung his spear and struck its side, sending it crashing back into the lake. But 3 more followed, snapping at him with endless hunger. Before he could strike again, the beast roared. The sound shook the cavern roof. It leaped into the lake, sending waves in every direction. Its claws slashed through the water, and its jaws closed around one of the lake creatures. The fight was wild. Water spraying high as the beast battled in the glowing waves, Rian tried to hold his ground on the shore, striking at any creature that came close. His arms grew tired, and one of the monsters nearly dragged him into the water. Just as it snapped at his leg, the beast surged from below, crushed it with a single bite. At last the remaining creatures fled into the depths of the glowing lake. Silence returned, broken only by the dripping of water. The beast pulled itself back onto the shore, blood running down its scales from long scratches. It was hurt, but still strong. Rian stepped closer without fear. He tore a cloth from his tunic and pressed it against the beast's wounds. The creature flinched at first, but then grew still, allowing him to care for it. He spoke softly as he worked. "You saved me again. You could have let them take me, but you did not. We are more than strangers now." The beast lowered its head beside him, its eyes closing as if it trusted his touch. That night, Rian did not sleep in fear. He slept against the warm side of the beast, safe for the first time since entering the caverns. Days turned to weeks. Together they crossed endless tunnels, rivers of molten stone, and forests of crystal that glittered in the torchlight. Rian began to feel that the caverns were no longer a prison, but a land. He had learned to walk with his new companion. He also began to notice something strange. Wherever they went, smaller creatures avoided them. Some hissed from the shadows, but did not attack. It was as if the presence of the beast declared him untouchable. The cavern world respected the beast, and by walking at its side, Rian was given that same respect. One night, Rian found carvings on the walls of a deep chamber. They showed pictures of great scaled beings that looked much like the beast. They were drawn beside shapes of humans holding hands with them. The carvings were old, their edges worn by time. Rian touched the stone and whispered, "So this has happened before? Long ago, your kind and mine walked together." The beast stood silently, its glowing eyes fixed on the carvings. It made a low, mournful sound that echoed in the chamber. Rian understood then that this creature was not only feared but also forgotten. The council had spoken of it only as a monster, but in truth, it had once been part of something greater. He clenched his hand into a fist. "They wanted me to die here, but instead, they have given me the chance to remember who we are. They think humans are weak, but they have never seen us when we choose to stand. And they have never seen us with friends like you." The beast tilted its head as if listening. From that day, their bond grew even deeper. When Rian grew sick from drinking bad water, the beast carried him on its back until he regained strength. When falling rocks nearly crushed him, the beast pushed him aside and took the blow on its scales. And when food was scarce, the beast brought him fresh kills. Waiting patiently as Rian cooked his share before eating the rest raw, through each trial, Rian realized something. He had not only survived because of the beast too had survived because of him. They were no longer separate. They were partners. Above the surface, the Council of Vera continued their lives, believing Rian long dead. But among the humans in the city, whispers began to spread. Some said they had dreamed of him still alive. Others said they had seen strange lights in the mountains at night. Though the council mocked such talk, the fear in their eyes grew with each passing day. Meanwhile, in the heart of the caverns, Rian and the beast stood at the edge of a new discovery. They had reached a tunnel that sloped upward, carrying fresh air and the faint glow of light from far ahead. It was the first true path back toward the surface. Rian placed his hand on the beast's scaled neck. "The time is coming. If I walk out of here, I will not walk out alone. They will see us together, and they will know the truth." The beast gave a deep growl, not of anger, but of agreement. Its eyes glowed brighter in the dark, and its tail swept the ground with power. The bond of survival had become a bond of trust, and soon that bond would be shown to the world above. The tunnel grew wider as Rian walked with the beast beside him. For many days they had traveled together through the underground world, But now the air smelled different. It carried the fresh taste of the open sky. The faint glow ahead was not the light of crystals or molten stone. It was sunlight. After long weeks in the dark, Rian knew he was nearing the surface. The beast sensed it too. Its steps grew faster, its head lifting higher, as if it remembered the warmth above. The tunnel shook with its heavy body, but its eyes were calm, no longer filled with rage. Rian touched its scaled side as they walked. "Soon we will show them," he whispered. "They thought I would die here, but I will return with you." Above the mountain, life in the alien city of Vera continued. The council had nearly forgotten about the human trial. In their eyes, the matter was already settled. Rian had been sent into the caverns, and no human had ever returned. The people of the city believed he was long dead. Some mocked his bravery, while others pitied his fate. Yet in quiet corners, among the human workers, whispers still spread. Some felt that Rian was different, that his spirit was too strong to vanish in silence. They looked toward the mountains at night and dreamed of his survival. These whispers reached even the ears of the council. They laughed, but in their laughter was unease. One morning, as the suns rose over the towers, guards noticed strange tremors beneath the ground. Stones cracked in the streets, and dust fell from the walls. The people grew afraid, thinking it was an earthquake. The council gathered, their scaled faces tight with concern. "It comes from the mountain." One of them said, "Something stirs in the caverns." Another replied, before they could speak further. A sound shook the air. It was not the sound of stone breaking, but a roar, deep and powerful, echoing across the valley. The people froze. Even the proud council members fell silent. They had all heard stories of that roar, yet none had expected to hear it so close to their city. From the mouth of the mountain tunnel, dust and smoke rose. A shadow appeared within the haze. Slowly, step by step, Rian walked out. His clothes were torn and marked by travel, but his head was held high. His eyes shone with strength, not weakness. And behind him came the beast. Its great body filled the entrance. Scales black as night, eyes glowing like fire. It stepped forward with heavy grace, yet it did not attack. It walked calmly, its head lowered beside the human it had chosen to follow. The crowd gasped in shock. Some cried out in fear and stumbled back. Others stood frozen, unable to believe what they saw. A human had not only survived the caverns, but returned with the very creature the council had used as a weapon of fear. The silence of the council hall broke into chaos. "Impossible," Vorak hissed, his silver scales trembling. "No one can tame the beast." But the sight before them was clear. The beast stood at Rian's side, not as a master, not as a monster, but as a guardian. When Rian raised his hand, the beast lowered its massive head, calm under his touch. Rian's voice carried across the stunned crowd. "You sent me to die, but I did not die. You told the people that humans are weak, but I have returned stronger than ever, and I did not return alone." The humans in the crowd felt hope ignite in their hearts. For years they had lived under the rule of the council, always told they were lesser, always forced to bow. But here was one of their own, standing tall with the beast beside him. It was proof that humans were not as the council claimed. They were more. The aliens shifted uneasily. They had believed the beast to be untamable, a creature of pure destruction. Yet here, it obeyed a human. Some of them whispered in fear. If one man could do this, what might the rest of his people achieve? Vorak stepped forward, his voice sharp. "This is a trick. The beast cannot be controlled. It will turn on him and destroy us all." Rian shook his head. "You do not understand. The beast is not a monster. It is a being with thought, with choice. You feared it because you could not command it. But I did not try to command it. I chose trust, and it trusted me in return." The beast growled low, as if agreeing with his words. The ground trembled with the sound, and even the proud council members stepped back. The people began to cheer softly, at first only the humans. Then some of the younger aliens joined, their voices rising in awe. For the first time, the power of the council was shaken, not by war, but by the sight of a bond they had said was impossible. The guards lifted their weapons in panic, unsure of what to do. But Rian raised his hand. If you strike, it will strike back. Do not turn this into a battle. Look at us. Look at what we have become. The beast stood still, waiting on Rian's calm voice. The crowd saw the truth. It was no longer the feared terror of the caverns. It was his companion, his ally. That night the city was filled with whispers louder than ever. Humans spoke of freedom, of strength, of a future no longer chained by the lies of the council. The aliens whispered, too, of the old legends that spoke of humans and beasts united. The balance of power had shifted. The council could feel it. In the shadows of the council chamber, Vorak and the others argued. If he lives, he will inspire rebellion, one said. If we kill him, the beast will destroy us, another replied. Vorak's eyes burned with anger. Then we must find another way. This human has broken the order of our world. He cannot be allowed to rise. But outside their hall, the people had already seen what they feared most. A human, unbroken, standing tall with the beast at his side. The trial meant to prove weakness had instead revealed strength. The punishment meant to silence had instead given voice. And the death they had planned had become the return of the unbroken. The sons of Vera rose over the city, but the light now fell on a scene no one could have imagined. Rian stood at the edge of the city square, the beast coiled beside him like a guardian of ancient strength. The crowd of humans and aliens stared in awe and fear. The council, perched in their crystal hall above, could not hide their shock. For years, they had believed humans weak. They had believed that one human sent into the caverns would be gone forever. They had thought that even if the stories of the beast were true, no human could survive its lair. Yet here he was, alive and unbroken, and he had brought the very creature they used to scare and punish. Rian raised his head and spoke clearly, his voice carrying across the square. You sent me to my death, but I returned. You told us we were weak, but you were wrong. Strength is not given. Strength is earned. And it is shown not by fear, but by courage, by trust, and by standing together. The crowd was silent at first. Then, slowly, whispers rose. Humans spoke to each other in low tones, their eyes wide with hope. Some of the younger aliens spoke too, their voices trembling as they realized that the rules of power were changing. The beast shifted beside Rian, its glowing eyes scanning the crowd. It had become calm, loyal, a living proof that humans were not alone in the struggle against fear. The council had intended to teach a lesson about weakness, but instead, they had taught everyone about something greater: respect. Vorak stepped forward from the council balcony, his silver scales glinting in the sunlight. You are lucky, human. This is no power you can hold. One day, it will turn against you. Jan smiled, calm and steady. Luck is not what brought me back. I survived because I did not give in to fear. And this, he said, gesturing to the beast, is not power. It is trust. You could never have forced this creature to obey. Only respect and courage could have done it. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Some of the guards lowered their weapons, unsure of what to do. For the first time, humans in Vera felt the weight of possibility. Perhaps they were not meant to live only as workers or pawns. Perhaps they could rise. Rian stepped forward, and the beast followed, its heavy claws making small tremors in the stone ground. They moved together like two halves of the same spirit. The council hissed and whispered among themselves, their voices sharp but fearful. They had never seen such courage and unity. In the days that followed, Rian walked through the city with the beast by his side. People came from every corner to see them, to witness the impossible. Children ran close, laughing, while the adults watched with quiet hope. Even some aliens who had long looked down on humans began to bow slightly in respect. Rian spoke to the people. You do not need to bow to fear. You do not need to hide from strength. We are all capable of courage, of standing tall, and of making choices that others say are impossible. The council tried to maintain order. They spoke of law and tradition. But their voices were weak against the presence of the human. who had returned with the beast. They could not undo what had happened. They had sent him to die, and instead they had created an example for all to see at night. When the city slept, Rian stood on the balcony of the highest tower with the beast beside him. He looked toward the mountains, toward the caverns that had been his trial and his school. He remembered the dark tunnels, the rushing floods, the strange creatures that had tested him, and he remembered the moment when the beast had chosen him. As much as he had chosen it, they thought, "This would be the end," he whispered to the beast, but it was only the beginning. Beast's glowing eyes met his, steady and calm, as if it understood every word. It had survived because he had survived. They had grown stronger together. Now that strength would be seen by the world above. Word of Rian's return spread beyond the city. Humans in distant lands whispered of the man who had faced the beast and lived. They told tales of his courage and his bond with a creature that even the council feared. Rian had become a symbol, not of rebellion, but of hope. The hope that humans could rise above fear and oppression. The council met in secret, trying to decide their next move. "We cannot kill him," one whispered. "The people would turn against us. The beast would destroy us." Another council member spoke more quietly, almost to himself. "Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps humans are not weak. Perhaps we have underestimated what we cannot control." Rian did not seek revenge. He did not raise armies or destroy the council. Instead, he walked with the beast through the city, showing that humans and the creatures of the world could coexist, could respect one another, and could survive against impossible odds. One day, he called the people together in the city square. "The trial that was meant to break us has instead made us stronger. Fear does not make you obey. Respect does not make you weak. And courage is not measured by how many battles you win, but by how you face what you think will destroy you." The people cheered. The aliens in the crowd, who had long thought humans weak and foolish, looked on in amazement. They could not deny the bond between man and beast. It was living proof that humans were capable of more than they had. Imagined Rian raised his hand toward the sky. "Let this be known to all who doubt us. We are alive. We are unbroken, and we will not be forgotten." The beast roared in agreement, a sound that rolled across the city and into the mountains beyond. Its echo was not one of fear, but of triumph. Together, human and beast had shown that courage and trust could overcome even the darkest trials. From that day, the silence of the council was priceless. They had sent a man to his death, expecting only to demonstrate their power. Instead, they had witnessed the rise of a human who refused to bow, and a creature who chose loyalty over fear. The lesson had turned on them. The power of respect and courage had been revealed, and nothing could take it back. Rian stood at the edge of the city, the beast at his side. The people looked up to him not as a ruler, but as a symbol of hope. The council no longer held absolute power, and the story of the human who returned with the beast would be told for generations. The sun set over Vera, painting the towers and streets in warm light. The city was no longer silent. The people whispered, laughed, and dreamed, and Rian knew that he had done more than survive. He had changed the world. He looked at the beast and smiled. "We came back together, and together we will show them what it means to be unbroken." The beast's eyes glowed softly, and it nudged his shoulder with its massive head. It was the silent agreement of companions, of two who had faced darkness and lived. They had not only survived, they had triumphed, and in that moment the world of Vera understood something it had never known. Humanity could not be controlled. Strength was not only in power or force, but in courage, in trust. And in the refusal to be broken, the silence of the council was priceless. The hope of the people was alive. And Rian, with the beast at his side, walked forward into the future, not as a survivor, but as a symbol of what humans could achieve when fear was faced and trust was chosen. The trial had ended. The human had returned, and the beast had become his companion for life. Together, they were the living proof that courage and loyalty could overcome any darkness. The city would remember this day forever. The world would never forget.